recorded. There you go. Now it's recording. So you can turn off your cameras if you'd like, but certainly please mute your microphone. You will also have the opportunity to ask questions of our presenters. Simply using the chat feature at the bottom of your screen in Zoom will allow you to do that. And you can enter your questions at any time. And then those will be collected, and one of our participants, Carla Harris, will then receive them and ask the questions of our presenters. So before I move on and introduce our presenters to all of you, there are three people in particular that were instrumental in making this event happen. First, this is a Portland Library sponsored event. So Janet Notzik is the director of the Portland Library. She and the library strive to support the community efforts towards civic improvements through partnerships and the provision of information to community members. So in the past, the Portland Library has provided support for fair housing and public information presentations in partnership with Portland Social Justice Coalition. And they've also supported the Solidarity Commission's mission to assure diversity, equity, and inclusion in our community. Jesse Ravicki is an administrator with the Portland Youth and Family Services. He and Janet have been helpful in organizing everything technically about this event. So the fact that it's coming through clearly and everything's working well is Jesse and Janet to thank for that. The Youth and Family Services supports families in need from all cultural backgrounds, especially those that are new to the area and have made the difficult decision to pick up their entire lives and move across the globe to be with us here in Portland. And then probably most importantly, because this is the brainchild of Caroline Murray, actually pulling this event together so that the community could better understand what we're doing as part of the PRRG. And she chairs the Interpreter and Family Finance Committees for the PRRG. She's a member of the Portland Library Forum and the Portland Social Justice Coalition. She was facilitator for the former Diversity Group, which was based in Portland. She's a longtime member of the Baha'i Faith, which is an inclusive worldwide religion that believes in one God, one human family, and the common beliefs and teachings of the world's major religions. And she certainly lives out her faith through the Baha'i faith. Her life and her husband's have been enriched by raising a white daughter and a black son together. And over several years, she and her husband have hosted many high school and college students from around the world. So Caroline, special thanks to you for making this happen. She doesn't have a camera on her computer, so you won't see her, but possibly may hear her later in the event. So now let me move on to introducing our first speaker. Beth, have you arrived? Let me just confirm before I do this.
Yes, I'm here.
Excellent. So Beth Gold Rito, she's the leader of the Portland Refugee Resettlement Group and a longtime member of the Portland Congregational Church Mission Committee, where the idea of welcoming an Afghan family was first raised. She's a recently retired nurse, and she felt called to volunteer to head up this effort. And she will kick off our evening and talk a little bit about what the PRRG is doing. Beth?
Great. Thank you, Steve. And thank you, everyone, for being here. In September, Reverend Jane Hawken brought the idea of resettling a refugee family to the Congregational Church's Missions Board. We talked about it and quickly recognized that we would need this to be a community-wide endeavor. We connected with IRIS, a nonprofit group with years of experience successfully resettling refugees, to help us with the process of welcoming a family. Our goal is to support and guide the family towards independence within 6 months to a year. In October, the idea was presented at the Portland clergy meeting, where it was received with excitement and offers of help. A well-attended community meeting was held at the beginning of November. We talked there about the process of resettlement, the various committees we would need to form, and their duties were described. People signed up for the 15 needed committees. We now have over 50 volunteers, and our volunteers have or are in the process of completing 7 hours of required training. By early December, the various committees had met, chairs had been elected, and the work needed to welcome the family had begun. An apartment with a welcoming and understanding landlord was found in Middletown. We selected Middletown because of the need to use the bus system for transportation and the proximity of other necessary services. As efforts to fundraise began, gifts of household goods, money, and talents were donated by businesses, individuals, a local synagogue, and the churches of Portland. Meetings were held with community leaders in Portland and Middletown. Information about available ESL classes and curriculum to be used by volunteers in the home was explored. Local schools were contacted and information was obtained about services for the children. Food customs and needs were researched. Sources of regional and halal food were found. Several mosques were also located. A cadre of translators for Pashto, Dari, and Farsi were found, as at this point, we're not sure what language they will speak. The Transportation Committee has investigated and ridden the Middletown bus system. They have made maps and are prepared to train the family in using the bus system. They also have prepared to assist with the process of getting driver's licenses. State and federal entitlements have been explored, and a committee is ready to help fill out necessary paperwork. This committee has also prepared to get the documentation necessary for the adults to work. The Employment Committee has made contacts and is receiving lists of available jobs. Our technology and calendar committees have worked with volunteers to keep us organized now and when the family arrives. Medical services of all sorts have been found and contacted in preparation for the family's arrival. The Housing Setup Committee has been very busy collecting donated furniture and housing items. They are now hanging curtains and putting the finishing touches on the new home. In early January, we were contacted by Iris and asked if we could move up our timeline to receive a family in mid-January. They had a group of 10 families who had worked together with Turquoise Mountain, an artisans cooperative, and wanted to be close to one another when they settled. With excitement and a really big push, PRRG gave the green light. Turquoise Mountain was established in Afghanistan in 2006 by His Royal Highness, the Prince of Wales, to revive historic areas and traditional crafts, to provide jobs, skills, and a renewed sense of pride. The following is an excerpt of a letter written to us by Turquoise Mountain CEO Shoshana Stewart. I believe our extended Turquoise Mountain family will thrive here. They are an incredibly talented, kind, and resilient group who, with your support, will make a great contribution to our community. When they arrived in Doha on August 25th, after a harrowing journey through the Kabul airport, they woke up the next morning and just started teaching calligraphy and miniature painting to all of the children in the refugee camp. They made a huge impression on their hosts in Qatar, and I know that this is the spirit that they have of teachers, practicing artisans, and pride in their traditions that will make them a wonderful addition to our area. And now we wait. We thought we were going to have a family in January, but Iris has told us throughout this process to expect the unexpected. The family's transportation from a US base in the Middle East has been held up, and we now anticipate an arrival in March. And information is provided on the screen if you would care to donate to our efforts. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you, Beth. Appreciate that background. And I'd like to introduce our next presenter. Her name is Saleha Qureshi. She's a licensed marriage and family therapist, has her own practice close by in Wethersfield. She has been in the United States since 1996 and is originally from Northwest India, which is close to the border of Pakistan. Pakistan's the only country actually that lies between the part of India where she grew up and Afghanistan. All of the area is predominantly Muslim. Saleha arrived in the US with a Master of Human Development and Family Studies degree, and then obtained another master's degree in the same field from the University of Connecticut. Her specialties include supporting and empowering women survivors of trauma and domestic violence, as well as providing couples therapy, especially for Muslim clients from South Asia. Saleha, we're looking forward to hearing from you.
Thank you so much, Steve, for that great introduction. Hello, everybody. Good evening. I'm so happy to be here with you all today. So I'm going to be doing a PowerPoint presentation titled Befriending Our Afghan Neighbors. And, so we just want to talk about, we want to convey this idea that we want to look at refugee families, not as refugees, but instead, addressing them as neighbors. Yes, so let's just take a quick look at the status update from last year when the Biden troops withdrew from Afghanistan in August of 2021. As of today, thousands of Afghan refugees are still staying temporarily at US military camps around the world, awaiting resettlement in the US. Sponsor Circle program started by the Biden administration has been a significant effort in the resettlement of Afghan refugees. And this initiative has been helping American volunteers get trained by non-governmental organizations to sponsor Afghan families. And obviously this process of migrating from Afghanistan is not an easy one. There's lots of difficulties and challenges along the way. So let's take a look at some of the difficulties and challenges experienced by Afghan refugees in this process towards successful resettlement. Lifestyle differences. For example, dealing with indignities of working at a demeaning job that requires much less skill. Maybe because of temporary inability to speak English well, or perhaps because of a need to pass an exam here in order to continue working in their profession, such as a medical doctor. Cultural differences. For example, expectations here that they be on time for appointments or pay an extra charge for being late. Isolation. For example, being fearful of going outside, even just to enjoy a beautiful day and give their children a chance to play at a local playground because of fear they may have had of going out in public back in Afghanistan. So the question arises, how can we play a part in making the resettlement process a pleasant one for Afghan refugees? We can help our new neighbors build successful futures. Typically, the families coming here from Afghanistan have personal goals, such as becoming contributing, law-abiding, tax-paying citizens. The Portland Refugee Resettlement Group is prepared to help them attain these goals by offering assistance when they arrive, such as interpreting, ESL, ESOL, and tutoring for adults and children, help applying for jobs, bank accounts, and medical insurance, teaching about budgeting and scams, help finding appropriate grocery and clothing stores, help enrolling children in school, and teaching also how to use public transportation. So that address their basic needs, food, clothing, shelter, and education, right? But we also can help in other ways. where, for example, we can help in culturally sensitive ways. And how do we do that? Be culturally humble, open, and respectfully inquisitive. Learn about their culture so that you can better walk in their shoes. Humbly admit when you are wrong. Be open to experiencing and thinking about things from other points of view. Recognize that they may not be familiar with things that we take for granted. For example, a microwave oven or some other gadgets that we think everyone should have and know about. We can also help them by offering them choices, because our way of living is not necessarily better. You might learn ways you like better. Give them choices of doing things their way or your way, or maybe some combination of both. Do not impose your values, especially any that conflict with their values. Recognize when a choice is appropriate and when it is not. For example, summer camp is a choice. School is not. Another example may be the age and level of maturity of an older sibling left to care for the others. This age and maturity level may be younger there than what is required here. Also give them the dignity of risk. Allow them to make mistakes as they work towards independence. For example, they may send too much money to family still in Afghanistan and not have enough for essentials like their own rent. If they experience the consequences, they will be less apt to be overly generous another time. Honor their dignity, their pride, their self-worth. Look them in the eye and talk with them. Do not talk about them with others while ignoring them as if they don't even exist. Realize that limited English in no way reflects their intellectual ability. Try to learn keywords in their language. Ensure important notices are written in a language that they can read, and recognize when an interpreter is needed for conversations or when they are not able to read their language, so written translations would need to be read to them. Respect their privacy and confidentiality. Introduce them as neighbors, not refugees. Intervene in a sensitive manner when you observe others engaging in behaviors that show cultural insensitivity, racial biases, and prejudice. Recognize and accept that individuals from culturally diverse backgrounds may desire varying degrees of acculturation into our dominant culture. Contain your privilege. Recognize that our new neighbors may not have the luxury so many of us enjoy of expecting our society will serve our needs. They may be victims of anti-immigrant, anti-Muslim, or racist behaviors that become even more traumatic if their plea for help is minimized, dismissed, or addressed in a confrontational instead of a supportive manner. Make sure authority figures are aware of our new neighbors' presence and request culturally appropriate responses from them. If someone makes a complaint because of their dress or accent, request that authorities respond sensitively rather than by confronting the victims. Also realize that Western medicine and Eastern medicine view health differently. Recognize that our new neighbors probably experienced trauma in Afghanistan and on US military bases and may even experience it here. If possible, find healthcare providers who are Muslim, who can speak their dialect and are of the same sex as the patient. Accept that religion and other beliefs may influence how individuals and families respond to illness, and understand that grief and bereavement are influenced by culture. Single story stereotypes describing Afghans keep us from realizing their life stories are as varied as ours. For instance, thinking of them as terrorists. Although some are, just like here, the great majority are not. Confrontative and rude, while some are, such as those that grew up in military camps without experiencing the care of family, just like here, most are caring, family-oriented, and hardworking. Many are far more polite and formal than the typical informal people they will meet here. Their use of respectful titles is far more common than is ours. Religious extremists, just like here, some are, but the great majority are not. True Islam is highly respectful of Judaism and Christianity because all are believers in the one God. Thinking of them again as uneducated or unskilled, just like here, most have some education, whether it's formal, informal, religious, or secular. Nearly everyone has some skill, a professional, a laborer, a farmer, a service provider, an artisan, a chef, etc. When they arrive here, their struggles with English may prevent them from using their skills and may prevent us also from seeing what they can do. Having this notion that husbands have full control over wives. Just like here, some bully their wives. That's why we have shelters for women here. However, we are learning that by far, most husbands respect and love their wives. It is not uncommon for husbands to turn their earnings over to their wives because the wives do the shopping and then the husbands receive an allowance from their wives for their personal expenses. To summarize, despite the trauma they may have experienced, most families who were evacuated from Afghanistan are resilient, eager to learn, and willing to work hard. Like us, most want to give their children opportunities they may never have had, and most like us want a safe environment for their families. Like us, each is unique, some shy, some outgoing, sometimes happy, sometimes sad, maybe stingy, maybe generous, some quiet, others energetic, each one special. With our help initially, they can more quickly become independent, law-abiding, tax-paying, and contributing citizens here. It is therefore our responsibility to welcome them and support them in all the ways we can to enable them to become independent of us as soon as possible. Credits Welcoming Afghan Refugees, a webinar given by the United Church of Christ, mandatory training for community co-sponsor group volunteers like those in the Portland Refugee Resettlement Group, Samara Fritchman, LMHC, JD, PhD, Diversity and Cultural Competence, a seminar sponsored by the Institute for Natural Resources, a nonprofit scientific research and educational organization. Thank you.
Thank you, Saleha. That was a nice background and some advice on how to greet the family that we're so looking forward to having, and probably advice well worth using for anyone new to the community. So well appreciated. I do have good news too, that our third presenter, Arzu Robar, has arrived, and I'd like to introduce her. She is a case manager at IRIS. She's an refugee from Afghanistan who arrived in the US with her family 20 years ago in 2002 from Pakistan. She graduated from Southern Connecticut State University with a bachelor's degree in political science, and she works at IRIS as a placement and reception case manager. She's happy to work and advocate for vulnerable populations such as refugees, women, and children. Arzu, welcome, and we look forward to hearing from you.
Hi, everyone. It's nice to meet you all. My name is Arzu, and Steve, thank you for the introduction. I guess I'm here to learn more about what you guys think, and I'm happy to share my experiences with you. And if anybody has any questions regarding Afghan culture or how I had to deal with the coming to the US or anything like that, I'm here to help with that.
Well, this might be a good time to actually, thank you for that. We can turn this over to Carla Harris. Carla is a member of the Portland Refugee Resettlement Group. She's participating in the fundraising and publicity committees. She's also a member of the Trinity Episcopal Church in Portland, where she's held leadership positions and helps to spearhead community outreach programs. She's a human resource professional for a health insurance company, and she's here tonight to be able to guide the discussion, field questions, pose them to Beth and Saleha and Arzu. So if there are any that came in on the chat or any that you would like to raise now, or Carla, any that you have, I'll turn it over to you right now to moderate that.
Thank you. I don't see any questions in the chat. There was one about meeting our family, and as Beth explained, our family is, we haven't been told who they are quite yet, so we don't have that information. Arzu, I was wondering if you could maybe share more about your experience as you came to the United States and what you faced that may help us understand a little bit more about what our family will face. Are you muted?
You're on mute, Arzu.
You know, it's hard. I had a difficult, I couldn't unmute myself as a participant, so she may not be able to do that if one of the co-hosts could do that for her.
I think she's good.
Yeah, the host has to allow the participant to unmute themselves. But
Yeah.
I think you guys can hear me now.
Yes.
Yeah, so I came here in 2002 with my family. We came here as refugees from Pakistan. And I would say that one of the most difficult things we faced was having a community of people that support you, that speaks to you in your own language, or wears similar clothes to you or dresses like you. I think that was something that was the most difficult for me. Not being able to relate to someone or wanting to have a conversation, but not being able to understand what they're saying. The language barrier is big. And then obviously there's a part of you that wants to, you relate to people. And when you don't dress the same, you don't talk the same, you don't look the same. That was something really difficult. And I think now some of those things have changed. We have many more Afghans in this community. There's many more people that arrived. So some things have changed. They have better community relationships. And even if, for example, if their case manager might not be available to help with something, there is a friend or a distant relative member, a family member, or even a neighbor that can help them with, the little things in life, the little things that they need to overcome in order to succeed here. For instance, like how to open a bank, or where do you go shopping? Where do you get halal meat? Where do you get, where can I find hijabs, which I would not normally find at a Walmart, so yeah.
It's so helpful. It makes so much sense. I mean, I would think if I would go to a foreign country, I would want to have people like me also to speak with, but it helps us have more empathy for folks that are coming and what they will be dealing with. And it does make me feel good that I think we do have a good infrastructure now as we bring folks here, right? We do have interpreter services. We have somebody help setting up the bank accounts and getting to doctor's appointments, et cetera. So, and you're a part of that. You've helped, through Iris, helping other families do that. So that's really wonderful work, and a lot has been made progress here. Something else I was thinking about was how you mentioned seeing other families that are like them. And I do know we're settling so many people. I'm hearing about other churches and organizations that are settling families in Connecticut. And so it helps me think too that we need to make sure we're connecting those families once we get them kind of here and they have the initial sort of getting familiar with their surroundings and their home, but definitely connecting them with people in the community. So that's very helpful. I do see a question in the chat. and it's a good one. I was thinking of this one too. What are respectful titles for family members? I'm not sure, Arzu, if you'd like to take that, or Saleha would be better.
Yeah, I think Arzu can take that because she speaks the language too, right? My language is a little different. Speak Urdu.
Okay, I speak Urdu as well, but I also speak Pashto and Dari.
Okay.
I think it's very similar to Urdu as well. For men, we'll say brother, like or female, it will refer to them as a sister, which is khore, and a man will refer to them as ror, like a brother, like bai. Ye mera bai hai, like that. And if it's someone who is older than you, we Afghan culture respects people who are older than you, or who is close to you in a relationship. So that's about it.
It's very helpful.
But if you want to know like the exact terminology, I can go more into details.
Absolutely. Tell us more.
So for people who are older than you, it's like same in Urdu, we'll call them uncle or auntie, which is khala, or kaka, or khor or ror. And if it's someone younger, you like beta, like Zoya. Or bachai.
Taking notes. This is really helpful. Yeah, I think it'll be helpful for all of us to learn these terms, and in the language. We need to know the language our family will speak, but that would be really, really helpful for us. Yeah. And it makes so much sense to make sure that we're approaching them with the same respect that they would be expected at home where they came from. Anything else? Oh, here, Beth has a question. What type of canned goods or non-perishables can we stock the kitchen with? Because we're trying to, plan ahead, and it's nice if we can stock some things up that are non-perishable.
Oh, yeah. Afghans like a lot of lentils. I think aside from, we're like big on rice, but for canned, I would say like kidney beans, the red beans, and what are the chickpeas? Right. Sometimes corn, canned, or spinach.
That's helpful. And it's true that when most come, they won't have used the appliances we have. We're setting up a kitchen. We're setting up all the, and that the microwaves referred to earlier, Saleha. And, are those sorts of things we're going to have to teach them sort of how to use in general?
Yeah. So something that might need you to explain it to them would be a microwave and an oven. I remember when we initially came here, they put a coffee pot for us, like one of those, it's a coffee pot, like you put the coffee at the top and it makes coffee for you. And Afghans don't drink coffee, so we didn't know what for. For you, it was just always laying around in our house. But I always wondered, like, what it's for. We're big on tea and sheer chai, which is milk tea. And I think they do need some training with the microwave and with the oven. That's really important because, I explain to clients that the houses here are not made of cement like they were back home, and easily catch on fire. So make sure that you have an emergency kit next to you or a fire extinguisher, and make sure that kids stay away from those things. It's important to explain that to them.
Very
I
helpful.
can interrupt for a moment. I just allowed people to unmute themselves. Hopefully they won't all unmute at once, but we had someone with a hand raised.
Yeah,
Miss
Elizabeth has a
Paula,
hand raised.
she
Do you have
can
a
speak.
question? It looks like she can't unmute herself. Oh,
There
there
we
you
go.
go. There you
She
go.
did.
Thank you so much. Yeah, my name is Elizabeth, and it's really a pleasure to be here. And I really applaud all of you for what you're doing. One thing I was wondering, as maybe something I can help contribute. I know celebrations and holidays are so important to people, and I know there are a handful of big celebrations in Afghanistan. And are there any sort of decorations we could help them with that might help them feel at home? Maybe there are things that could be purchased, just like some
Yeah.
people, Christmas trees or dreidels or, whatever things will help them to continue with their holidays and feel, have that connection to their celebrations.
One thing that helps is having dry fruits. Afghans at any celebration, they will make sure that that they have a feast and there's tea and there's dry fruits available. And in Afghan households, you will always find that they have almonds or pistachios or raisins. It's something, I think, very traditional and very, even on a daily basis, they like to, at the end of the day, take a break from everything and it's called a conversation, just sit around and with a group of friends and have tea and dry fruits. And also dry fruits is big during the holidays like Eid or New Year. Afghans have a different, they celebrate the Persian New Year. And some other things would be like on Eid, my family, we do henna. So there's little cones that are sold at the Indian market, and it's like a tradition. I'm the auntie with 6 nieces, and I do everybody's henna on Eid. Another tradition is to wear your most traditional clothes on Eid. So we'll make sure to go shopping for that. But I don't think the clothes. A lot of the women, because they're not able to find those clothes here, they make sure they have a sewing machine at home, and they'll make them at home if somebody gets them fabric or some stitching appliances, Mm-hmm.
Wow, very helpful. That was a great question, Elizabeth. Thank you for asking that. There's another question here. Is there a particular translation app that we could use to communicate with the family? Is there anything that you've used?
I haven't yet used a translation app because I speak the language myself with the client. But the clients do use, in case a translator is available, I do tell them to use Google Translate. And then there's also another app. It's called Tarjumli. I can look it up later and share that information with you guys.
Okay. Yes, that'd be wonderful. We also had a question with the pronouns you were sharing with us. If we could get that, them spelled out as for us to share with folks, that would be really helpful. Thank you. Lots of questions coming in. I love this engaged group here. When we do interact with the families, can we address them by their first or given names, or should we use those terms that you were saying before?
You can address them by the name. I think Afghans are very understanding that, we're from different cultures, and it's not something that they would take offense at. But it is sweet it is sweet to know that someone is learning a word or two in your language, and it means a lot to that person if you call them a brother or a sister. It creates a deeper relationship, but they will not mind it if you call them by their first name.
Yeah, okay. Going back to the food, types of drinks or teas. You mentioned tea. Is there anything in particular?
In particular, they drink a lot of green tea. and they will add cardamom to it as well. And then the second one is the sheer chai, which is milk tea. And for that, they use black tea and cardamom.
Okay. Great. Do you have any suggestions for us about interacting with the children in the family? Any experiences that your kids went through that could be useful to us? Or you were young when you came, so.
I've had a lot of good experiences when I came. You know, the few bad ones people tend to forget because everybody they hang on to the people who made them feel good. And those feelings people never forget. And with children, I think it's really nice to just talk with them and ask them how they're doing, how is school, or what's your favorite book. I used to, you know, when I was in school, because I didn't speak English, there were times where some bad experiences, like certain people would come up to me and ask me like, oh, hey, is Saddam your dad? Like, right? Because of the news. And I never understood what it meant at the time, but I would just shake my head, you know, like, no. But there are so many people outside of my family that I met in school, a teacher that had an impact on me because they helped me to create a connection between being an American and being an Afghan. And before that, there's a stage that every child goes through where they ask themselves, who are they? Are they Afghan or are they American, or can they be both? Or and it can easily lead to one side or the other. But it's nicer for me. I feel happy that those people helped me find a middle ground in between both of those places.
Wow, that's powerful. Yeah, I can understand that, where they just aren't sure, you know, I'm here now. Am I an American, or do I retain my Afghani roots? Yeah.
Yeah, I've had, you know, clients that see me here, and it's their children. And it's such a innocent question that this one kid asked me. He just came up to me when he saw me get out of my car. And he said, you drive a car? And I said, yes. And then he was like, you're Afghan? You know? And I was like, yes, I am.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, in a child's mind, they cannot make that connection. And I think the parents themselves are so busy with a new life, paying bills, figuring out every little thing, that they forget that, hey, this child is also here, and they can hear, they don't know why they came. They also need somebody to talk to them or explain, you know, how why we're here. But I feel like for many Afghan parents, they become so absorbed in this new life, or even stressed by it, that they do forget that.
Right. There was a question about driving in there, and I'm going to go to Saleha because I want to make sure she has some airtime too here. But do Afghans drive?
Yes,
And when they come here, will they? You know, is it? I didn't even know this. Are they on the other side of the road? Is that going to be an issue?
If you can drive in Afghanistan, if you can learn to drive in Afghanistan, you can learn to drive anywhere.
That's great.
Yeah.
Saleha, I have a question for you. As you were going through your presentation and helping us, it was so helpful to like understand, you know, their perspective and how people are feeling when they come here. But I'm thinking a lot of folks have probably PTSD. They've been through so much and seen so much that we would never even imagine in our lives. And how can we be sensitive to how they're, you know, coming now to this country? They're safe, hopefully, and it's so different from where they came from. How can we help them?
Yeah, you're very right. Yes, they do have PTSD from the trauma they have endured, you know, and even on the way here. I think one thing we can do is to just be very culturally sensitive, and it's a sensitive subject, to talk to them about mental health in particular, or the symptoms. So we just want to be, we just want to go with them, meet them where they are. And, because again, many people are not, mental health and therapy is not such a concept that is common there in those countries. Even in India, it's now picking up the trend, right? So yeah, so there's like, even in our DSM book, we have like some cultural things that need to be taken into consideration when we diagnose people. We just don't want to slam them with these mental health disorders because some things have their cultural origins to them. So there's a whole segment in the DSM that, asks us to be wary about that and to even verify whether that's really, something related to the culture, the symptoms that they're experiencing, or whether it can actually be something symptomatic of an actual disorder. But yes, I would think that they would have a lot of trauma from past and most likely PTSD, and and that's why I think they probably would benefit from therapy. But mostly, again, like I talked about in the presentation too, meeting somebody from the same culture and faith makes for a good therapeutic connection. And when that is established, then they are more, they feel more safe enough to talk about their issues and, gradually go there with them. Yeah.
Right. I wondered too, we were at the house a couple weeks ago and you hear sirens. It's Middletown. You're hearing, sirens for all different reasons. Is that something we should talk to them about and say, you're going to hear these, this is what it means, that sort of thing?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yep. Yeah, because there's that PTSD related to, coming from a war country like that, right? Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, I would think, if they bring it up or something, then yeah, you can talk about it. But yeah, but you can tell it in a very non-direct kind of way, like, as if like, you're tying it to something else, I guess.
Right.
So it doesn't seem like it's, meant to create some impression.
Kind of talk about it before it happens so they know what to expect,
Yeah.
thinking.
Yeah, to not worry and just trying to, empathize with them and tell them like, this is something in particular to this area, but it's nothing to worry about, and,
Right.
stuff like that.
Right. That's helpful. Could we ask you this question? Is the term Afghan, people of Afghan or Afghani, is it one versus the other more proper?
Yeah. So Afghani is the currency in Afghanistan that they use. They call it Afghani. So it could be
Okay.
3 to Afghani. It refers to the money.
Okay.
But it would be, it's helpful to know the difference. With your clients, you can refer to them as Afghan.
Afghan.
Otherwise, you're referring to them as money.
Oh, well, that's really helpful. I would not do that. Oh, okay. We're looking through here. Stephen has let us know that the girls of Mercy High School's robotics team are interested in helping the family learn English or tutoring, which is fabulous. Thank you so much. Who to contact? I think that would be you, Caroline, correct? You're managing the interpretation or language services, or is that the person who's doing ESL? Oh, is she on mute? Can somebody unmute Caroline? If not, we'll get to that afterwards, but we could definitely connect you, Stephen.
Oh,
with the
there,
right-
I think I'm all set now. That's
Okay.
definitely an ESL issue. I'm
Okay.
just the interpreter committee. And the interpreters are going to be with us at meetings to help explain things like at the bank and the school and that sort of thing. But the tutoring is the ESL or the youth education. And in fact, if they're going to be working with the children in the family, youth education is probably the best committee of all.
And we can, Stephen, if you want to send us an email to that email address we provided, we can connect you with the right person. So thank you so much for that. Let's see. Speak about, we asked from participant, can you speak about the roles of males and females and the social mores, so we don't offend? And that is quite different. I'm not sure, Saleha, if you would like to take that, or if that's better for Arzu.
Yeah, I think Arzu can start and then I can add in if I, you know.
Yeah, that's a great question. It is something that if we educate ourselves on, you will be able to understand the Afghan culture more deeply. In Afghanistan, the women and men are very segregated, and they have a very select role. So usually the woman will stay at home, and the man is the breadwinner, the main provider. And it's not true in all cases. For example, if you meet an Afghan from the capital, like Kabul, you'll see that they don't necessarily follow those roles. But here, even in New Haven, we've had issues surrounding that, because there's many families that, for example, they cannot afford their rent. And we encourage both of them to work together, to share responsibilities, and to help each other financially. Because putting all of that responsibility on one person, it's a lot of pressure. So we make sure that they understand that here they have an opportunity, and it's a choice. No one can force you to work, but be realistic about it. If you think that your family needs more financial help, you can take steps to help them. You can go take an English class, or you can start a job that you're comfortable with. There's many women, for example, who cook from home, and they sell that outside, and it's within the comfort of their zone, but they're also taking advantage of that.
Thank you. So Saleha, anything more to add to that?
Yeah, I agree with Arzu that, I think it's a very Islamic based, teaching, where men are supposed to be the caretakers. They are supposed to be the ones, bringing home the money, and the woman has the role of, nurturing, taking care of kids. But like Arzu said, if there's financial need, like more and more women now living in the US are opting to, also work alongside their husbands. But from an Islamic point of view, they don't need to if they don't want to, and if they don't, if they have enough money or something. So that's a great privilege, I think, for women, to be able to stay home and, just really, spend quality time with their kids, growing up with them. It's priceless. So I think in that sense, it's a great thing. But I know sometimes there can be misunderstandings, with regards to Islam, yeah. So I think just wanted to clarify that.
And aren't there rules around, being in mixed company, like as a man and a woman together that are not related shouldn't be, alone, and that sort of thing? Or
yeah, there is definite, mention about that in the Holy Quran, like, about the need for men and women to be segregated, or, wearing a hijab, and then, socializing that way. There's definitely, and even that, the reason for that is, actually for protecting women, from unsavory gazes maybe, or getting molested or things like that. So even in that, there is a deep-rooted meaning. But I know sometimes people think of it as like backwardness or something, right? But it's really, that's not the intent at all.
it's protection.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have Naseem has a question, and I think you're off of mute, so go ahead.
Yes, greetings to all. My name is Naseem Sheikh, and I'm here with my wife, Ramla. Ramla is my boss, so I will have to go first.
No boss, yeah. Assalamu alaikum, and hello, everybody.
Hello.
My name is Ramla, and I just wanted to add one thing that you were just talking about segregation. I just want to make sure, because this is a very important thing in Islam. Like, it's very common in our culture here in the US that that opposite sex people hug each other or shake hands or kiss, or, it's just very, very regular, like very cultural. So, but
Yes.
it's because of the segregation, it's not considered normal in Islamic culture for opposite sex people to, if you're not related, if you're not a brother, sister, you're not related like that, you cannot hug each other or, kiss each other. Women can each other, and men can greet each other, and women can greet women, but not like if you enter some Muslim household, a man cannot just walk in and start hugging his wife or kiss her or even shake hands. Shake hands.
She can with women.
Women.
No issue.
No,
Man shaking hands with
I'm
man,
just
so.
talking about opposite sex.
Yeah,
Opposite.
that's really helpful because so I'm the type of person I'm just going to throw my arms around somebody and just hug people. You just,
Yeah.
that's
So
not
that's not
acceptable.
considered
Yeah,
appropriate. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Thank you.
So I just want people, because some people, it's normal. We put out our hand and some men might feel offended that the woman didn't shake their hand, or the woman might feel offended that the man didn't shake her hand. So culturally, it's so important to understand the culture, because some particular behavior is considered rude in this culture. And
Yes.
then in other cultures, it's considered very inappropriate to do that.
Yes.
So, yeah.
I have to make just a few more comments. So first of all, really, we are deeply impressed with the Portland community. They are coming forward. It's amazing how they are coming forward in such a big number, and they are getting ready to welcome Afghan families. So it's really thanks for that. So appreciate it. And we thoroughly enjoyed presentations by Beth, Saleha, and Arzu. And Arzu really answered so many things that even we didn't know. We are originally from Pakistan. We now live in Avon, Connecticut. We are members of FVAMC, Farmington Valley American Muslim Center. And we also have a committee to help Afghan families with their resettlement. And we are partnering with the Trinity Church, Episcopal Church of Hartford. And there is a family in West Hartford, Afghan family, West Hartford. We are already supporting them. So I just want to say that, look, our Afghan brothers, sisters, they are just going through a very difficult time. Afghans are very proud people. They will not look to anyone for charity. They are very, very proud people. And this is just a difficult time in their life. And they never forget their friends. So they need just hand holding for a little period of time. They are very hardworking, honorable people, and they will learn language and the culture, everything very quickly. Like the family that we know, the lady of the house, she has never been to a proper school, formal school, but she's way ahead of compared to her husband in learning English. So that's really incredible. So again, thanks everyone, and thanks for allowing us time to speak as well. So
Thank you for joining and for all the work you're doing. It's a wonderful connection to, like I said, so much work is happening around the state, and it's really wonderful that you joined us this evening. We appreciate this so much. If you wouldn't mind, I'm going to put in the chat again our email. If you want to reach out and give us your contact information, perhaps we can reach out if we're needing any assistance.
Yeah,
Sure,
we will do that.
anytime.
We will do that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Lots of questions. I'm going to go back to a few more here. Some of it was around the greeting, and I think this is so interesting. Is there somebody, when they do come home, what is the greeting? A typical greeting of a man and woman, or a husband and wife. And I don't know who I'm asking. Saleha?
So we do Assalamu alaikum, that's our most common greeting, like peace be on you.
Okay.
But yeah, I think Arzu can say, in Pashto, Dari, like how they welcome. Maybe.
Wonderful. We're gonna have to get a bunch of these written down for us to use.
Yeah.
That I just love that. Peace be with you. And somebody's asking, is it okay to put your hand over your heart and bow your head, as a form of, respect or hello or greeting? Is that acceptable? Saleha, maybe?
Yeah, I would think so. It shows humility, right? Like, yeah.
Mhm,
I think,
mhm.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
I agree. You can say Assalamu alaikum. And also, I make sure that my clients understand that they're not forced to shake hands if they don't feel comfortable, if it's against their religion or culture,
Mhm,
that they can instead put the hand on their heart and just say hello that way. But I do
mhm,
tell
mhm.
Americans are very open people. They love to talk, and they do. There's a client of mine that, someone said hello to them and it was the opposite sex, and she just kind of ran away from them. She just kind of ran off, and it's understandable. Those type of situations happen, and I guess she was embarrassed or shy, but I did tell her that to an American here, that can also come off as rude or insulting. So you don't have to give up your culture, if you don't want to shake your hand, but you should, from a distance, say hello to them.
Mhm, mhm. Maybe this is where the COVID is okay, because we're keeping distance anyway. So maybe that's
Absolutely.
not
It's
a bad
working
thing.
well.
Elbow or whatever. Would it be difficult, and I guess I'll ask Arzu this, would it be difficult or improper for an Afghan male to work with female coworkers as we're trying to place workers into jobs?
I think that's a question that you can ask them, because every person has a different comfort zone.
Okay.
Some of them completely don't feel comfortable being in the same room as a guy, but some of them believe that as long as it's in public and not in private, it's okay, as long as you are being respectful and of each other, and maintaining boundaries. Some of them will say it's okay because, to be honest, here in America, you're bound to be in the same room as both sexes, as the opposite sex. And I used to teach at school, and we had a parent teacher night one day, and a parent came. I was assistant to the teacher, and a parent came, and when they saw where their daughter was sitting, it was next to a guy. And they were not okay with that. They said that I don't want my daughter to sit next to a guy. But it's just hard to say yes to that, because, okay, that's just one class. After that class, that child will go to art class or gym, and you can't keep up with it. But so we talked to the parent and came to a compromise. Hey, if there is something that kid said to your daughter that was not appropriate, then we can act on this. We can change her seating. But if nothing has happened, if there's not a good reason, then we don't see the need to change it.
Very helpful. Somebody's asking, this is a great question about the sewing machine. If we were somehow to be able to get a sewing machine, would that be the controls and that be familiar, or would we need to, find something that they might be familiar with? And then for material, we're thinking maybe we would need to take them shopping to see what kind of material would be appropriate, or they would like to.
We do,
use.
Carla, we do have a sewing machine that's been donated at the apartment, and an
Wonderful.
offer of another one as well.
Wonderful. That is good news. But I see Nasim's wife, I'm so sorry, I forgot your name, that you were nodding, would take them shopping for fabric to pick it out.
I take them. I can take them.
You would take them? Oh,
I'll take them.
lovely.
Yeah.
But I'm
Ramla.
thinking, yes, it's
Yeah.
choice, right? Saleha, you were talking about choice.
Yeah.
And if I can have a choice in the fabric that I make my clothes from,
Yeah.
that would be meaningful, right?
Anytime. I'd love to. I love shopping. I love shopping material, and that's originally in Pakistan. That's how we had dresses made. My mom was a great seamstress. She always sewed all our clothes. So we always went to the stores, bought the material, and then that's a normal thing in Pakistan also, that we
Right.
buy material and get it sewed. So I'm very experienced in that.
Actually, Ramla, besides shopping, she is good in many other things. Like she was really very helpful with Syrian refugees as well. She speaks fluent Arabic, just like
Yeah.
Arabs. And
I wish I could speak Farsi.
now she wants to learn Pashto.
I want to learn. I wish there was an easier way to learn, but I'm going to try. Yeah.
Oh, that's
I had a
wonderful.
question though about the languages. So they said there's Farsi, Pashto, and so are these all three spoken by all, or particular area of Afghans speak different languages? This
Saleha,
question is for Arzu.
who knows that? Yeah.
So the majority, the main ethnic group in Afghanistan is Pashtun. So majority of the people do speak Pashto, but the formal education and the language of official, like the governmental language, is Farsi. So most of them will learn Farsi or both of them. They will learn both of them. As for myself, because I was a refugee that came from Pakistan, I was able to learn Urdu over there. But for Afghans, they can interchange between Pashto and Dari. And Farsi is I would like to say that Farsi is not exactly same as Dari. So Farsi is more spoken in Iran, and it's a very more informal version of Dari. It's a different dialect. Would say that Dari is more formal. And most Afghans will not understand Iranian Farsi. Even though it's the same language, it's a very different dialect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Beth, somebody was asking about the nearest mosque to Middletown. I'm sure we've identified that.
We do. There is the Islamic Center, which is, I believe, now on Broad Street. So that's pretty close to where they'll be living. There is a mosque out off of Washington Street. And then there is also a big mosque in Berlin.
That's helpful. Another question, well, for us, our Portland refugee group, will the children of the schools also be apprised of being welcoming, polite, etc.? I know we have a group that's working on youth education, and I'm imagining they would, they are in touch with the schools, and we do know that. But with the particular age group we get, I'm assuming they would be able to talk to the teachers and make sure that everybody's aware that these kids are coming and polite way to treat them.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of contact with the school system, just like the mayor. I met with the mayor of Middletown, who was extremely welcoming, and he wants to be kept apprised. The chief of police was wonderful, and is very interested in having his police officers be aware culturally of other
Yes.
cultures and how to interact, and the fire chief as well. I mean, they were all great. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of communication that we're going to do, perhaps some education there. But definitely the education committee's been in touch with the school systems. And once we're really sure the age group we're getting, there'll be more contact.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They've been great about that. Going back to the police and fire, I mean, that goes right back to your comment, Saleha, about, making sure they're aware, right? And if there's an issue, then they're aware and say, okay, I know there's a family, and, we know who they are, and we know how to approach the situation properly, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very nice of you to think about all those things, because you're right, like the sirens could just trigger some kind of a response of, safety related, right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And we don't, Stephen, I don't think we know what schools the kids will be attending. It depends on the age, the Middletown school system. But there's several schools, and it depends on the ages of the children once we get them. But it's very exciting, and that group has really worked hard to make sure we're ready when they do arrive.
I also wanted to speak to the question about the young people from Mercy who want to be involved in volunteering. That would be wonderful. Part of volunteering for us, people have to complete a 6-hour training, which is through IRIS. So if you email me, I think my email's down on the bottom of the flyer. It's the Connecticut, the PRRG email. I can give you information about that. People will have to have background checks, and there's also a sexual abuse education to be done as well to work with the family. There's quite a bit of commitment in that, and but we would certainly welcome having people volunteer with that.
Absolutely. I'm going to put the email in the chat again too.
Thanks, Carla.
And Jesse's going to put the slide back up too at the end with all that, so I'll just let him do that. I think I've handled most of the questions. Oh, here we go. Is a popular family game often played in Afghanistan? Saleha, I don't know if you know.
I don't know. I think Arzu can help out.
Yeah.
Yeah, not from Afghanistan.
Arzu, any?
Yeah, I would say like cricket is very famous and popular, and even football and volleyball. From my own childhood, there was a lot of board games that we would play among our family. I forget what they're called now, but it's like a
Karambol.
It's like
Cannonball. Cannonball.
yes,
Yeah.
and chess as well. Yeah, and
Wonderful.
well, yeah.
That's great. Let's see.
Carla, can I ask a question, please?
Of course, Donna.
As far as the housing setup goes, do they use beds or do they sleep on the floor? We're getting conflicting reports that they spend a lot of time, they put cushions like around the edge of the room, and they spend a lot of time on the floor. Is that true?
Yeah, I can actually respond to that. So most Afghans, it's like in my experience, it's very similar to like the Japanese culture, like having a connection to the ground. If you go to an Afghan house, you will not see sofas. Most of the time you'll see cushions, which they call tushak. And they sit on that, and they also, it also comes with pillows next to it. So it's like a kind of like a mattress, but they'll make it themselves. And most of the clients are very eager to know where to buy fabric for that, and where to buy they stuff it with cotton actually. So they need a lot of cotton for that. I think you'll find the fabric in any fabric store, but the cotton I've had difficulty finding. Maybe on Amazon or something we can find it. But it's I think, yeah, that's a very important question. Most of my clients, we will put a sofa in their house, and they will take the sofa out, take a knife to the sofa and rip it open. They will take everything out of the sofa and trash the sofa. And they will ask for a sewing machine so they can make those cushions by hand at home.
That's so helpful. That's really helpful to know. And say with meals or like dining room table, where, do we need a table, or are they more comfortable sitting?
I would ask the client if Iris donates furniture to clients. So I will ask them if they want a dining table, we can provide it, but if they don't, then we won't. But Afghans culturally, they do eat on the floor, and we have a thing, it's called dastarkhan. We'll lay it's like a tablecloth on the floor and sit on the floor and eat together as a family.
Lovely.
Now,
This
what
is-
ab-
Go ahead.
what about beds? Do they sleep in a bed, or do they also sleep on the floor?
So that's also it depends on the client. Some Afghans feel comfortable sleeping on beds, and some do not. Also, like, one of the differences that they experience when they come here is the type of housing we place them in. So the type of houses they come from in Afghanistan, they're very spacious. They're very big because they're meant for a family of 20 people, for example. It's very spacious. So here they want to create that space by taking the furniture out and by putting very simple things here and there. Yeah, so I would ask the client if they feel comfortable with the dining table, or they want to continue eating on the floor on the dastarkhan.
Thank you so much. I think we need to cut off there. We need to have time for some closing remarks and some thank yous. Put that slide back up, but thank you so much for the thoughtful questions, all the lovely responses, Arzu and Saleha and Nasim and your wife. Thank you so much for all of you and your insights and the interest of this group. So I'm going to pass things over to Reverend Jane Hawken to close us out.
Thank you.
Thank you. Wow, that's just so much to take in. That was just wonderful. But as we bring the program to a close, I do want to thank our moderator, Steve, and some of these thank yous you've already heard, but you can never thank people enough. So I want to thank Janet and the library staff for hosting, and Jesse for all of his tech help, and Carla for, boy, that was great handling. I know you did the publicity as well, but the Q&A, I think that's always a challenge, and you just did that beautifully, and such great questions. And Hope created the flyer, so thanks to Hope. I want to thank Beth once again, not only for her words, but her leadership of the Portland Refugee Resettlement Group. And oh my, many thanks to Saleha for not only sharing the PowerPoint, which was so helpful, but also gave us the title for this event, Befriending Our Afghan Neighbors. And heartfelt thanks to Arzu for her time and her words and herself. And just hearing from her is a real gift. I want to thank also all the staff at IRIS and all the ways they've been such a big help, and all that they have been doing for our community. And it's just such impressive and important work, and we just can't thank the staff enough for what they've been doing. I want to thank again everybody for being here this evening, and also, we do want to extend our gratitude to the civic organizations, the faith communities that got the word out about tonight. And again, a seconding of the many thanks to Middletown's mayor and police chief for their support, also to Portland's first selectman. I want to thank the interpreters who are ready to volunteer on behalf of our family, to all the volunteers who have stepped forward to help, To all the people who've donated funds for the project and provided furnishings for the apartment. Last and certainly not least, a special word of thanks to Caroline Murray, not only for her efforts in the resettlement work, but also for envisioning tonight's event and working to make it happen. I think, and just for closing remarks, I think that this type of project, it's about opening our wallets, our hands, our eyes and ears, our minds and our hearts. And many people have opened their wallets and given financial gifts, and this type of generosity is crucial for projects such as this. Others have opened their hands in all manner of chores and tasks and assignments. Some have opened their eyes and ears in the training sessions, and we heard that that's quite a commitment of time. And just as this evening, we've opened our eyes and our ears to learn about the project, as well as to learn about our Afghan neighbors and their culture, their challenges, their experiences, their expectations, and to also think about what their dreams for the future are in their new home. And to that point, we need to continue to open our hearts to embrace and befriend our Afghan neighbors, but also to open our hearts to everyone, everywhere, as we work to break down barriers between us while building bridges of caring, understanding, and respect in a too often fractured and polarized world. So let us open our hearts in a spirit of compassion, always in service of justice for all, and with a dream of peace for our world. And I'm gonna send things back to Steve now for his closing of the evening.
Well, thank you, Reverend Jane. Certainly, I think you covered everyone who's participated in this, who's made this possible, but certainly want to thank you and the congregation at the First Church in Portland. Certainly, you had a vision to make this happen, to bring a family here, and it will come to fruition. So very nice work to all of you and all the congregation there. With that, I would like to thank everyone for attending. It's fabulous to see the interest. I read a book over the summer by Jared Diamond called Upheaval: Turning Points for Nations in Crisis. And he said, he cited the United States as a nation in crisis for many, many reasons. But he said, what keeps us resilient is that we are a culture that is open to other cultures, to immigration, and the skills and the experiences that they bring. And because of that, he doesn't fear for the success of the United States. He fears for those countries that close themselves off from others. So clearly, I think Portland's doing a great job, and look forward to welcoming the family when they arrive. Thank you very much for attending.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
See you all.
Thank you.
Good
Ellen.
night. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.